Hello and welcome to the first edition of the Tottenham Hour podcast brought to you by WeAreTottenhamTV. I'm your host for today, Matt Hayes. Let's go around the house. Let's introduce who we have. It's a weird feeling being on here and introducing the lads, but Ben, we'll start with you. Happy Monday evening to you. How are you getting on?
Yeah, we're doing good. If you don't know me, my name is Ben. I'm from WeAreTottenhamTV. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm doing good tonight. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Sim, how are you this evening?
Pleasure to be on with you guys. I'm looking forward to this podcast and making it a regular thing. Yeah, I'm doing great. Look, things are going well, so let's hoping for more happy podcasts.
Absolutely. Let's hope they continue. And everyone, I'm sure you know David Harris as well, the Irish Hotspur. David, how are you getting on this evening?
No, absolutely buzzing. Look, positive time for Tottenham, so it's the perfect time to release this. Let's go.
Absolutely. Well, look, we're going to dive straight into things. We're going to chat about the transfer window. We will touch as well on our FA Cup victory against Brighton on Saturday night, as well as looking forward to Wednesday's crucial Premier League clash with Southampton. But look, we're going to start with the transfer window. We're going to start with two players who made their debuts, of course, for Spurs on Saturday. And let's start with Dejan Kulusevski, because he's a player that, at least underneath one of my tweets, did split a little bit of opinion. But Ben, look, we'll come to you first. Dejan Kulusevski brought in from Inter Milan on an initial 18-month loan deal with potential purchase down the line for 35 million. What are your thoughts on that deal for Tottenham?
Yeah, to be honest, I was very happy with the deal. He's a player who I've kind of been looking out for, to be honest, last couple of years in Kulusevski. Obviously, hasn't really done it for Juve this year, but when he has been on the pitch, I think he's done quite well for them. So for us to sign him, I think, up and coming talent within European football, done really well for Parma, did well in his first year at Juve, but with Allegri coming in, it just didn't work out for him. Having him at Spurs and seeing him for 20 minutes live in the flesh, I mean, he was exciting, but look, it wasn't obviously a great performance from him. I thought a lot of the time he got the ball, didn't look fast enough, broke down a few counterattacks and stuff like that. But on the flip side of that, he did find Bergwijn, he did find Kane in really good opportunities. So I think in terms of what we're talking about with the counterattackings and how he's going to help up with that, I think time will tell. But, you can definitely see he's got an eye for a pass and for that creativity that we have been missing this season a little bit.
Yeah, look, I made that point on Twitter after the game. People were going on about him having a fantastic debut, and look, I made the point it's a little bit too early to judge, and I explicitly said I'm not saying he was bad, but I don't think it was an especially good debut either, because he slowed down a few counterattacks. And look, maybe that was the instruction from Antonio Conte when he came on to slow the game down and try and take any bit of energy out of it that could have encouraged Brighton to go on and try and get back into it. But I think, like you said, the talent is there. He's a very good player. And Sim, it's interesting with the player as young as he is, only 21 years of age. He has a lot of appearances behind him. I think it's close to 100 appearances in professional football. So we're getting a nice little balance there of youth and experience. But it can only be seen as a good deal for Tottenham with the initial 18-month loan deal, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's a very low risk from Tottenham, that's for sure. And I definitely we have a player at Spurs, first of all, that we need in the squad in terms of competition for Lucas, that right wing position. He can play centrally as well, and a kind of try before you buy, although under the certain circumstances does become an obligation. I think it is a very good deal, and it's also for a price which is pretty reasonable for a player with a very high ceiling. I've never seen a 20-minute cameo caused so much divide, though, between Tottenham fans. It was quite unbelievable. I think so people are just so desperate for him to do well. And then I think people are right to say, look, I think he did come on and show some quality, but you don't want to go overboard, because you're right, Matt. I did think in his 20-minute cameo, he did slow down some counterattacks. I think there was a couple of times at least where he had so much space to run into, and I don't know what it was, but he just decided not to run into it, and he picked the wrong pass. And he was playing some passes behind Bergwijn, who he could have played into space, but then again, when he did get close to the penalty area, he did show a bit of quality. So that's what I was pretty happy about. So look, it was only 20 minutes. You can't really judge too much about it. It's his first game as well. But I think there was enough in there to be excited about.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with that. And I think there seems to be this thing within not just the Tottenham fan base, but within the football fan base, that you kind of have to be on either extreme of an opinion. Like, you have to think it was a great debut, or you have to think it was a terrible debut. And it's kind of hard to find that middle ground. But I think the balanced view of it is we don't really know, what's going to come with Kulusevski based on that 20 minutes alone. But David, I think the experience he has at Juventus, and the fact that at such a young age he was thrown into that Juventus team and has in the past been an important player for them. I know, as Ben mentioned there has been a little bit less of that since Allegri came in this season, but we've brought in, David, a very, very good player.
No, look, we've got him one of the hottest prospects in Europe, in my opinion, in world football for his age. This is a player that Cristiano Ronaldo sings praises about, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. So he's in very good company there with players who have had that right mentality, who have won things, who are absolutely praising this young kid. But in terms of his debut against Brighton, Matty, Look, for me, I actually think he done the right thing, kind of slowing down some of them counter-attacks, because for me, it's about game management. Now, don't get me wrong, I was looking at him in times when he was in space, and I was like, do you know what? Go on, son, open your legs, show the Spurs fans what you're all about. But at the end of the day, if he would have went charging down the wing and ended up losing the ball, and you're just giving it back to Brighton to come back into the game, I think it's about game management. I think he's done the right thing, slowing things down. And on another day, if he came off that field with 2 assists, because he laid on 2 chances, Bergwijn should have buried that, laid on one for Big H as well. And on another day, would have came off with 2 assists, and we would have all been sitting here praising him. One maybe little thing that I picked up on is that he kept on cutting inside. He's very, very left-footed, in my opinion. He didn't look too comfortable to be able to go on the outside of his man and use his right foot. And I think with how football is nowadays, and then the analysis that is given to each individual, that'll be picked up very, very quickly. So he will have to adapt on that. But look, I know the division that his debut was made, but I see a common thing at Tottenham, especially since the summer, since we got in signings, we're very, very quick to judge these players. We're not giving them much of a chance to settle in. I think that's all because how disgruntled we've been over the last two years. And look, I've been at the forefront of that myself. I hold my hands up, but I think with some of these signings now, we just need to sit back, relax, and let them kind of find their comfort zone and let them come into this team and improve it. And I think there's no better manager to kind of get them on that track than Antonio Conte. But I just call for people just to relax on Kulusevski a little bit. He's only 21. I mean, he did look a bit nervous. His first touch, I said, oh, he's a bit nervous here. But he's 21 years old, playing in front of 60-odd thousand people. He's 21. At 21, I was down in the pub, with 30 people. This guy's in front of 60,000 people. You know what I mean? Of course he's going to be a bit nervous. Just give him time.
But Dave, when you were 21 down the pub in front of 30 people, I definitely know you put in a good performance, though. That's for sure.
Oh, 100%. I commit to everything I do, lad.
Yeah, look, it's an important point, and Aaron kind of says it here in the live chat as well. He's literally the same age as Jack Clark, which I think is a very jarring thought.
That's mind-blowing.
It is. It really is. And as James says there as well, Kulu was obviously nervous, still showed his qualities, will only get better. And I think it shows he kind of handled those nerves well, David, with the point that you made there. If he had come into this game and his number one kind of priority was to impress the fans, he could have picked that ball up and driven at Brighton the whole time. And while I think maybe that could have been a better way the first couple of times he got those chances, maybe it shows that level-headedness and it shows how keen he is to follow the instructions of Antonio Conte. And I think Kulusevski only said today or yesterday that he loves suffering and he wants to work for Antonio Conte. David?
Yeah, just quickly, just to kind of maybe expand a little bit. He's in a situation at the minute where he's kind of damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. If he went driving at players and it didn't lead to everything, everybody be saying he's a one-trick pony, he's a headless chicken, And for me, the opposite now, he's cutting inside, slow down the counterattacks, and people are giving out about it. It's 20 minutes, give the guy 4 or 5 games and then judge him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just want to quickly say as well, I've heard people say he's slow. Kulusevski is not slow. He is a very quick player. Like, you trust me, once he gets to use his pace, people will see he's a very fast player. For sure, he is not slow. I know maybe a couple of moments he didn't maybe use his pace where he could have, but trust me, this guy can be rapid.
And I also kind of noticed that off the ball, he wasn't as quick as he was on the ball. And actually, when he got on the ball, he actually used his pace a bit better. And we saw that kind of turn of pace that he can use. So I'm really excited about Kulu moving forward for sure, 100%.
And just to add quickly, at 21 years of age, when he cut in the way he did, he could have had a shot. He could have been desperate to please. He could have panicked. He could have had a shot, but he didn't. He held his composure at 21 on his debut and laid in 2 passes. I mean, there's a lot of positives to take from that debut, in my opinion. That even though everything is happening around him and all the excitement, he can still slow everything down and in his mind compute everything that's going on and lay things on for other people.
Well, I think it's fair to say there's a lot of positivity on this panel anyway about the signing of Dejan Kulusevski. But of course, on deadline day and in that game against Brighton for his debut, he was joined by his former Juventus teammate Rodrigo Bentancur. The Uruguayan international joined Tottenham on a 4.5-year deal for €19 million initially, also from the Italian club. And look, I think his debut is one that didn't really split opinion. I think the general feeling was one of big positivity about him as well. We'll go back around the other way this time. David, what were your thoughts initially on the Bentancur signing?
Do you know what? As soon as I seen him coming on, he has that kind of shadow, that figure, like a bit of a Moussa Dembele. I'm going to call him the Uruguayan Ndombele, or I'm going to rob this one from James from Spurs related, Bentancur. I love. To be honest with you, you seen that piece of skill that he done on the edge of the box, left foot, right foot, play it out of trouble, we're out. That's what we've been missing at Tottenham Hotspur for quite a while now. And this guy, to be able to come in and do that on his debut, with the game in the balance on the edge of the box, and not only that, but what I took from it is his positioning of the game as well. Even off the ball, he was in places to kind of win a few headers, put himself in positions. And then as well, he was also showing for the ball. At times I've seen him move into positions to be able to receive the ball. And I actually already seen him, shouting at people, pointing at people, telling them what to do. And I absolutely love that. We need someone to come in the midfield that's not shy. Look, Harry Winks has been decent this year. But I think when Bentancur came on in that 15 minutes alone, he kind of showed us what we've been missing in the midfield over the last couple of years. I think going forward, him and Højbjerg would be absolutely brilliant. He's a big boy as well. And for me, I'm more excited. I actually think he'll start against Southampton, but I'm more excited to see that passing range he has. And the biggest difference I noticed is when I seen them touches on the edge of the box that he did make. When you go back to Harry Winks against Chelsea, there's a point there where Højbjerg was battling for the ball, it broke. And Harry Winks just pinged it straight back into the Chelsea half, gave it straight back to me, panicked. Now, if that's your player in the midfield that you're looking at to hold the ball, be composed, and get us out of them situations, it doesn't inspire everybody around you. But when you see Bentancur do that, and it's like what Ndombele used to do. He used to be able to play out of them tight situations. When you see someone do that, it gives your defenders belief and trust because they will give him the ball no problem. It gives Harry Kane more belief and trust because he knows we can get out of that situation and we're not relying on him to drop deep to get us out of the situation. So then he will feel more confident to be able to stay up front because before we've seen he was dropping because I've been there. I've been the best player on my team growing up. And I don't mean to brag, but I have been. And when other people around you aren't as creative, you naturally drop. The manager wants you to stay up there because you're there, but you're the best chance of winning the game. But you naturally drop to get on the ball because you're frustrated because the quality of the ball coming into you is not good enough. It's not what you need, and you're having to juggle around with it or compete with it in the air when you want it at the feet. And this Bentancur guy will give Harry Kane the trust to stay up front. So I'm very, very happy with this new signing. And going forward,
what team was that? Who are you the star man of?
Loads of teams, lads. So Stallings, Kilcullen. I was on the Kildare County panel as well, all the way up until 17 as well. So I was a good player, lad. I was very good.
We'll take your word for it that you're the best in those teams. As long as you don't feel the same on this panel, we'll allow it. I think, look, that point with that skill on the edge of the box from Bentancur, I lost my mind. And I tweeted, said it was the best piece of skill I've ever seen from a Tottenham player. That was slightly exaggerated, but it was, like you mentioned, the composure in that moment, in a new team, in front of 60,000. I mean, it was such a lovely moment, and we don't really get that excitement very often with new signings at Tottenham. So it was brilliant to see. But one point that I think was kind of missed out as well was that yellow card he picked up for manhandling Yves Bissouma at one point. I like that as well because it shows a little bit of a nasty streak, one that he can. I think looking at his past disciplinary record, it's one that he can control. I think that was one thing that's gone a little bit under the radar that I was a big fan of as well. But Sim, I'm sure you're full of praise for him for his debut as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was only a 13-minute cameo, but he got a lot of praise from the Spurs fans, didn't he, for that short time on the pitch. As David said, that composure on the edge of the box, but that's exactly what he's going to bring. A young guy who's had years of experience starting for Juventus, winning titles, having that winning mentality, despite the fact that maybe at the end of the career they're happy to let him go. He has been a regular starter for them for many, many years. He's not like he's been used to like playing lots and lots of games in Serie A in a big league, and he's been used to being under high pressure situations. He's been used to people closing him down on the edge of the box, and he's been used to being able to play out. And not only was he able to play out and find a man, but a few times he was able to find little passes forward into attacking situations, which allowed us to break. And he was playing out tight situations really impressively. So I was really happy with that. And I think maybe he can add that bit of composure, which definitely I don't think Højbjerg really has when he's playing like 100 miles an hour. He doesn't really have that composure, I feel, in tight situations. When people are pressing him, I can feel like he can be sometimes a bit of a headless chicken. That's when his passing can get a bit sloppy. I feel like when he gets time and space on the ball, he can be okay. But Bentancur seems at home with people pressing him and people and being under pressure, and that was really good. And it was only a 30-minute cameo again, so it's hard to read too much into it. But he definitely helped see out the game. He definitely showed what he could bring, a bit of calmness into that midfield. And he showed some quality. We haven't seen the full range of his abilities. We haven't seen maybe him play some long-range passes yet, or you even saw for Uruguay 1 minute in after signing for Tottenham, he scores a goal from the edge of the box. We haven't seen him have a shot yet or anything like that. So I'm sure there's more to come. But the 13-minute cameo was definitely very promising and showed maybe what he can bring to our midfield. I'm sure Conte showed why Conte wanted him, really.
Absolutely. I purely put it down to 24 hours without ketchup, and he scored his first ever international goal for Uruguay. I think there's no other explanation there. But look, Tim, you touched on there the ball playing ability that he has and what he can do in possession. Ben, when Juventus typically announced this deal before Tottenham did, they mentioned that he had more tackles and more interceptions than any other Juventus player since he joined them from Boca Juniors, and even furthering Sim's point in the amount of games he played, more games than any other player, level with Paulo Dybala as the most. I think it's easy to look at the ability he has on the ball, which I think is something we're massively lacking in the midfield, but he comes in with that added ability, but also being able to do what we have in our midfield already and being a natural replacement for one of the players that is in there with that ball-winning play. And like I mentioned, that bit of a nasty streak as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that, to be honest with you guys, I mean, I didn't know much about him before we signed him. And when we were kind of in talks with the two, I was much more excited about Kulusevski than I was Bentancur. And when we're speaking to a few Juventus fans and seeing the kind of reaction on social media, it felt like they were happy to see the back of him, and that kind of worried me a bit. But then, delving deep into the stats and seeing what he's about and watching the whole YouTube clips and stuff like that, I mean, he is a player that's going to bring abilities to our midfield that, a lot of people say it's similar to what we have, but he's going to bring that ball playing ability. He's going to bring all that kind of those silky skills in the middle of the park, that kind of Højbjerg skip and Winks don't really have to their game. And the thing is, though, with Dave kind of comparing him to Moussa Dembele, I think it's a bit too soon to start talking about that. I mean, Moussa Dembele was literally the best midfielder we've had in the recent era. And, you're talking about the likes of every single player that's played with him has said he's the best player ever to be gracing the football field. So I think it's a bit too early to start comparing him to Moussa Dembele. But from what I did see in that 13-minute cameo, opposed to Kulusevski, it seemed as though he'd been in that team for about 10 years. I mean, he just came in, fit in straight away, and it was like he's been playing with them for ages. And I'm after seeing the two cameos, I'm actually swaying more to the Bentancur side of who I'm more excited about.
Yeah, I actually do agree with that. Kulusevski is more of a kind of a pretty flair player, but I think with what Bentancur will add to our team, I think there's a little bit more there. And look, you may say we're not going to get carried away with ourselves, but David's talking about Ndombele, people in the chat talking about Sergio Busquets. We've got the best midfielder in the world in our hands, and we need to accept that as soon as we can. There were also on deadline day 3 midfielders that went out on loan. I'm going to come to each of you to talk about one player. Ben, we'll start with you. Give me Tanguy and Ndombele. What are your thoughts on that loan deal?
Yeah, look, I've made it very well and clear my thoughts on Tanguy and Ndombele. I mean, as a footballer alone, or let's not say as a footballer, but as a skill set alone, I mean, the technical ability he has is second to none. I mean, Jose Mourinho even went as far to say potentially second to none to anyone in Europe. And I would kind of agree with that. I mean, some of the things that we saw him do with the football was just mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. And it's so gutting to me. His mental ability to get on a football pitch week in, week out in the Premier League and do the off-field work, to do the mental work. I mean, it just really pains me that we couldn't get him on the pitch as much as we did. 65 million we paid for him, and he had about 10 starts or 90 minutes. I mean, just not good enough. And if you can't marry the kind of mental ability with the technical ability, unfortunately, you're not a top player. And I think that's what he showed at Tottenham Hotspur. I'm happy to see the back of him because of that. I think he'll do well at Lyon, going back to where he knows and going back to his home. I think he'll do well there. And if we can get that sort of money that the fee that they're saying is for the fee for the transfer, then I'll be more than happy. But something tells me is that we haven't seen the last of him.
Yes, I think 60 million euro. Recouping the majority of that fee that we paid 2.5 years ago is, look, I mean, if it comes off, it's probably the best business this club has ever done in terms of getting them off the books, but it just doesn't seem like something that's in any way realistic. And I agree, I do think we'll see him back at the club very, very soon. And look, you mentioned there the lack of game time he had. I think between him and the next player, Giovanni Lo Celso, they completed just 16 full 90-minute games in the Premier League between them in 2.5 years. Sim, I think we're very much the same on Lo Celso as we are with Ndombele, other than I'd say Lo Celso doesn't have as much talent as the Frenchman.
He doesn't have as much talent, but I'd always felt like he offered maybe a bit more off the ball Lo Celso than Ndombele did. It was a very weird one with Lo Celso because with Ndombele, pretty much as soon as Conte came in, he was sidelined. I don't think he started too many Premier League games except for the game against Liverpool. Lo Celso I'm pretty sure he was injured when Conte got appointed, and he was taking time to get back. And then he got back from injury. I think it was in December time or something, and then he actually was involved. Like he came in, he was I think he played against Chelsea, and he played in a few other games, and he was coming off the bench. He came off the bench against Leicester, and I was thinking, okay, maybe he's gonna start using him again. And then he was talking about how it's so important to have Lo Celso back because he's a really good player, and I really want to use him. And then it kind of came out of nowhere, where it's like, he was left out the Chelsea away league game of the squad, and then all of a sudden he's putting on social media saying, "I'm fit and ready to play. Like I'm not injured." And then all of a sudden it was coming out that we're ready to get rid of him, and we're desperate to get rid of him in January. I was like, "Oh, this has really come out of nowhere." I was really surprised about that, and it was a massive shame because I've always been a big advocate of Lo Celso and what he can do. But again, very similar to Ndombele, although this is more down to injury than just not being picked. He just couldn't get on the pitch. I think Ndombele played 10 90 minutes. I think Lo Celso played even less. I think he played about like 5 or 6 90 minutes in the Tottenham shirt. And as much as I really wanted him to work, maybe he just felt too much at the end of in January, that he was too unsettled. He needed to get out of Tottenham. Maybe he lost the trust of Conte, and Conte didn't want to use him anymore. I thought he was a player who had quite a lot of ability, and I thought off the ball as well, he could actually be quite a hard worker. So I thought he could be like not a liability, and can play maybe in a 4-3-3 in that centre mid role, or a 3-5-2. But if Conte lost trust in him, then it's time. That's the best thing to do. I just thought it would happen all very quickly. Like with Ndombele, we all kind of knew what was happening. How he was being very cagey about Tongi in his press conferences and everything, and he was being left out of squads. We knew that was on the cards. But Lo Celso, it all just happened very, very quickly. So I do wonder what really went on there. But again, if let's be honest, he's barely seen the pitch for 2.5 years. That's the reality. So again, if we can get some money for him, then that's the best course of action.
Yeah, and I think Conte said it best with his surprisingly honest press conference when he said it's just letting these players go is a sign that things have not been done well in the last couple of transfer windows. But David, another player went out unknown, I wouldn't quite put into that category. He's one for the future very much, is Bryan Gil, who has very, very much impressed in his first couple of appearances with Valencia, and that 2-1 Copa del Rey win against Cadiz, and then a 0-0 draw with Sociedad in the league on Sunday. I think everyone knows your opinions on Bryan Gil, but it's a move that, well, I think he could have been better off going to a Premier League club. It's just important that he gets those minutes, isn't it?
Gil Messi, get it right.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that. First of all, Matt, he put some respect on his name. It is Gil Messi. But look, we've brought in Kulusevski, we've got Bergwijn, we've got Harry Kane, we've got Lucas, we've got Son. They all occupying them forward areas. Where is Gil going to get the game time? And rather than keep him at Tottenham just to have extra numbers there, I would much rather get him out on loan, so we're not hampering his development, we're aiding his development. And who knows, he could end up ripping up between now and the end of the season for Valencia. Like you said, he started very, very well, and then come back to Tottenham another year older, and hopefully a little bit more wiser, a little bit more stronger, and a bit more stronger in mentality as well. I think it's only a good thing for Gil. Look, it's not goodbye. See you later, my friend. Gil Messi, please do perform out there and come back and prove everybody wrong. Look, for me, I know he likes to play out on the left, and I know it's his favourite position. He has said that. I just don't see it for him. I see him more in like a cam role. I think, but I see Conte doesn't play with cams, and I think that's maybe where he's probably put out on loan, because with him out on the left, if he was playing our first team against a lot of the bigger teams, it'd be very easy to just kind of move him off the ball. He doesn't have that sort of like electric pace to kind of get away, so it's very easy to show him on the outside, muscle him off the ball, and take it off him. I feel sorry for him as well, because if you look at the crap that he's had to play with in some of the cup games, you know, players that didn't want to be here, the core of Ali, Ndombele, Celso, he's been rolled out with them. He was never really given a fair chance there to kind of shine and prove his work, because we've seen in them cup games, he's making these runs in behind. The ball's not going to him because everything was slow and lethargic. He gets himself back on side, and the ball's not really... I love that. Big up Powder. Brian L. Messi, big up. But like when it comes to Gill, I just don't think he was given a fair shot in them cup games. I think if he was in the squad now, and the squad we have now, and playing in them cup games with the squad we have now, I think you'd see a whole different Brian Hill. I really do. So look, a loan out to Valencia doing the world of good, and let's get him back for next season.
Just before you move on, a question for you guys. I mean, Conte was, like you say, very honest in his press conference, talking about Ndombele, talking about Celso, talking about Hill, and talking about how we need to be more clever in the transfer window and not just buy players with ability, but buy players that are going to suit the league and you know, that and all that kind of stuff. I mean, do you think he was kind of talking about Hill a bit? Because I thought, from what I got from that, maybe he thinks Hill isn't going to be kind of suited to the Premier League. I don't know what you guys think about that.
It's actually a comment there in the live chat a second ago. I think it's from We're a Slice. Being mature is accepting that Brian Gill isn't Conte's type player. And look, I mean, it's a point that I do think does need to be brought up and need to be discussed, because there's a very specific type of player that Conte goes for, and he talks about so much outside of that footballing ability, like that mentality and the dedication, and like Kulusevski said, he's willing to suffer. And look, we haven't seen anything from Brian Hill that he doesn't fit into that. But we also haven't really seen much that he does fit into that. And I think with a player like Kulusevski coming straight out and saying, I love suffering and I want to do that for the team, you can see an immediate change there. But I also think you then need to go back to the point that Kulusevski is a lot more experienced. And Brian Hill, you know, with Sevilla, I know he did play for their first team, but he'd been loaned out to Eibar the season before. And he hasn't really been settled in a team. And maybe he hasn't found his own footballing identity, or really what it is he wants to do on a football pitch. And I said it from day one that we signed him, that it's going to be very difficult to get him to adapt into our team. And I know it was different kind of under Nuno, but he's a very, very traditional left winger, where he's a left-footed player who plays on the left, and that's what he wants to do. It's difficult to adapt and become that right-sided player, or in turn, it's difficult to become a left wing-back, as I see some people suggesting he should play there. So I'm not entirely convinced he is a Conte player, but there's nothing to say that he can't turn into that. And the comment I said he's not going to come back from Valencia looking like a damn Traore. I mean, I think we're all aware of that, but it is going to take some time to adapt to the Premier League. And
he is actually having quite a good time. He's only played 2 games for Valencia, but by and large, what I've seen and what I've read, apparently they're loving him at the moment after 2 games. But I just feel like, I agree with you, Matt. Like, he didn't actually have that much experience. We were relying very heavily on a loan spell at Eibar, which he did do quite well considering. But, you know, you probably really want him to go back to Sevilla, have a great season for Seville, and then sign him after you know full well that he can play at a high level, a good team. I'm not saying this guy doesn't have quality. I think even in the short cameos in a Spurs show, you can see the guy has ability and quality, but it's about being ready to play at the level we want him to play, and I don't think he's quite ready for that quite yet. And that's what I was saying early on when people were getting very excited about him after some cameos in the Conference League. It's like, he played well, but we just need to see how he can do actually in Premier League and at a very high level. And clearly Conte feels like he could benefit from a loan where he gets regular game time rather than being a squad player where he actually isn't quite impacting games when he's coming off the bench, not kind of getting involved as much. He had, starts against Morecambe and he was completely anonymous in that game. And if you can't get involved in those kind of games, then Conte isn't going to be ready to select you. And I think that's just reality. And I'm hoping he can come back from Valencia, having played 6 months at a decent level in the first team, and maybe he'll be ready to actually impact the first team at Tottenham. I don't subscribe to this theory that just because he's going back to La Liga, that means you can't judge him on his performances, because I think you can. It's just about being more involved in a better team, and hopefully he can come back and have more confidence in himself and be more physically ready to impact games.
And just to answer your question as well, Ben, for me, I can get what Conte is saying, because we're not in a position right now where we can waste money or we can shell out money on youngsters when there's still another 3-4 positions, if not 5, that we can strengthen in that team to buy in and improve that first 11. So you can't afford to be shelling out loads of money on youngsters hoping that they're going to develop. You can't afford to be mismanaging the money or spending wages on players like Celso and Ndombele who are just not pulling their weight. Everyone has to be pulling in the right direction, and we have to sort out this first team before. Once you have your first team and you have a good couple of players on the bench you can rely on, then you can start investing in the likes of the youngsters and bring them in, giving them time to adapt and settle and play games and stuff like that. And so for me, I do think them quotes by Conte, I do actually understand them, Ben.
Yeah, it's also time as well, because Conte's coming in. He needs points, he needs wins right away, and he needs people he can rely on. And unfortunately, we're not Man City, where if one player's not playing, we just have a plethora of attacking options. Or even Chelsea, they have if 2 or 3 attackers aren't working, they got like Ziyech coming in as 5th choice. If you're a part of the squad, you need to contribute, and that's where the sticking point was, I guess, for the time being.
Yeah,
I feel like that brings us nicely on to the next point, and that is what I was going to bring up in terms of whether or not this squad has been strengthened or weakened in the transfer window, and in terms of having options that you can trust and having players on the bench that you can actually bring on and will actually affect the game in a positive way. Tanguy Ndombele, Dele Alli, and Giovanni Lo Celso, between them, have made just 3 Premier League starts since Antonio Conte came in. So that's 10 Premier League games between 3 of them, 30 games, only 3 starts. And I understand the concern that we've less options in that midfield. But I suppose my question to you, first of all, is our squad stronger or weaker? And I want to get quick fire answers here because I'm conscious of time. Is our squad stronger or weaker? And give us a rating out of 10 for Tottenham transfer window. David, we'll start with you.
Yeah, just quickly, we actually had this debate, me, Ben, and Sim there one day on the WeAreTottenhamTV show about getting rid of the trio, Ali, Lo Celso, and Ndombele. Look, for me, I actually believe we're stronger as of now. If you look at the simple maths and the numbers on paper, you would say, yeah, we're weaker. We have a couple of less numbers than before. But if you look at who's contributing to the squad, I actually think we're stronger. You're bringing in 2 players in Bentancur and Kulusevski who have come in, and they're providing competition for places. They're hungry. They want to impress, and they're going to be pulling in the right direction with the rest of the team. They're actually providing competition for places. With Dele Alli, Ndombele, Lo Celso, and even Brian Hill, but I don't want to put them in that bracket because them other 3 I don't like because of what they've done. But they weren't contributing. They just were not contributing. And even when we wanted to rest players, we and Conte had to use these guys.
Much for a quick fire answer.
Yeah,
Thanks for that, David.
He was actually having to adjust his tactics and everything else just for these guys to try and put them in a team together to try and get a positive result. So I actually think we are stronger because we've got players who actually want to be here and who are actually offering something to this team rather than the players we weren't. And for me, I'm actually going to give the window a 9 out of 10.
Oh,
I love it.
9 out of 10.
If you're ever wondering,
I'll have to explain next week when we have time why I'm going to justify that.
I was just going to say, if you're ever wondering why David Harris' streams are 3.5 hours long, there's your answer. Sim, we'll come to you. Strengthened or weakened, and out of 10.
Yeah, I think obviously as a unit, clearly everyone's like singing from the same hymn sheet. So you got to say that from that point of view, like mentally as a unit, the squad seems stronger. Conte's happy with it. I do think in a perfect world, for me personally, as much as we were probably right to get rid of all 4 midfielders, considering we're only 2 incomings, in my opinion, we could have maybe kept one of them just for 6 months, just in case things do go really bad of injuries, and then they can cut, and one of them can maybe come in. But the fact of the matter is, something must have been really wrong if we even put them out on loan, and even Delhi put him out on a free with a £10 also 10 million clause for 20 appearances or whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, I gave the window a 5 out of 10 when I initially when it initially ended. I still think it's very early because, you know, who knows what can happen with injuries and whatnot. If Emerson gets injured, you know, we're in big trouble. If Ben Davies gets injured, a left centre back, we can be in big trouble. And so same with Harry Kane. So I still think there's quite a lot of holes. Obviously, you're not going to do clear all of them in January, but at the moment, I'll stick with it because I still think the 4 out and 2 in could leave it a bit unbalanced. But I do think the business we've actually done is good. So I'm happy with the actual deals. But whether we've left ourselves too short, time will tell. So at the moment, I'm still sticking with a 5 out of 10. That's
two very, very different answers there. Go ahead, Ben.
I'm going to give you a real quick fire one like you actually asked for. But before I do, Jack Milkerin with a comment here saying, Sim doing an Irish Hotspur thumbs up. I mean, I'm Ben. But anyway, look, I'm going to give it 6 out of 10 like I did at the close of the window. I think in terms of numbers, we're weaker. In terms of mentality, we're stronger. So that's going to make us stronger going from now until the end of the season, in my opinion. I'm happy with the 2 players we brought in. I'm happy with the players that went out. But I just wanted, for me, a right back was really important for us this January. And I thought we really needed one. If we would have got a right wing back in, and I would have given it an 8 out of 10, pushing on to a 9. So without that, I think we're weak in that area. So yeah, that's why 6 for me. But in terms of the mentality, I'm very happy with the team. And like my brother said, it does feel like now everyone is kind of pulling in the same direction and singing from the same hymn sheet.
Just quickly, I know you, but just sorry. So with what Ben was saying about the right back, I know. But with what Ben was saying about the right back, I can understand that. We were always going to be left in this window because we had so many positions that needed to be filled or we wanted to strengthen. We were always going to be left, with a couple of positions that needed strengthening. Like if we signed a right back and a left sided centre back, people would say, "Well, where's the centre midfielder? Where's the backup striker?" But let's be honest, buying quantity over quality is what got us in this mess in the first place. With so many players that were just not good enough, but we brought in just to fill positions. Prime example under Jose Mourinho, that window when we brought in 7 signings. At the time, we all thought it was a good window, but when you look back on it, it was more quality, or was more quantity over quality. And we cannot go back down that route again because that's what's hindered us over the last 2 years. So I think why I think it's a 9 is because we didn't make that mistake. If the right quality in them positions is not available, I'm happy to wait until the summer. I think we've got enough to get us top 4, and I'm happy to wait till the summer. And everything I think has changed in the summer because you come out of this transfer window, we've offloaded 500k a week in wages between the 3 main players we got off Ndombele, Celso, and Dele Alli, which puts us in a position to act on the out of contract players, and we've all seen that list. It's an extensive list, so you can get in 1 or 2 of them, and we've also put ourselves in a position in the summer where hopefully now we can buy first rather than have to sell first and then buy later, which is why we didn't act earlier in this January transfer window. Because
Dave, I get your point. I completely get your point, but just because of what you're saying is that maybe quality over quantity. I completely understand that, but just because we haven't brought one in, it still makes it lower because we haven't brought one in. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah, I get that, but yeah, like it's the January transfer window. Not every club is going to let their best players go unless they have players to replace them. A lot of clubs are still fighting for top 4s or trophies or whatever it is, and they're not just going to let their players go like that. It's 1 month. It's a very short window to be able to replace them and to be able to replace them right, especially if you haven't planned for it. So, it's one of them windows. It's a domino effect. Like even if we did have a right back lined up, we'd have to wait for them to have their right back lined up, and wherever club that right back's coming from, we'd have to wait for that. It's a very, very hard window to do business in. And look, whether us fans like it or not, there's a wage structure at the club for a reason, and we have to stick within it. And that's why we had to wait to do business, because to be able to get them players off of the wage bill. And look, I can understand it.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is we're giving a grading on the transfer window and the state of the squad, right? So it's hard to give it above a 6 because we've got still so many holes in the squad. I completely understand what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying, that it's very hard to do those kind of business in January. But I can't give above a 6 because there are still so many holes in the squad, albeit knowing that it's very hard to do that kind of business in January.
And I'll just quickly add on that. If Celso and Ndombele were sold permanently as opposed to loans with an option to buy, not an obligation, then my score would probably be higher. But the fact of the matter is, everyone talks about we've got all these players off the wage bill. Unless they sign permanently, they're back in the summer, and unless their loans go right, they are going to be back in the squad, and we're still going to have to shift them. So it's not as simple as that. We got to hope that the loan spells do go great and they actually end up being bought. But at the moment, that's still too early to say that's going to happen.
Yeah. And just a chat here from Andrew saying we are stronger because we took the deadwood and players who are spoiling the dressing room mentality out. Yeah. And pretty spot on.
It's the start of a clean out. It's the start of that painful rebuild that Pochettino told us about 4 or 5 years ago. Just my quick opinion that I think our starting 11 is stronger. I agree with you, Ben, that our squad depth is weaker. And I think the very fact that Conte is already talking about Kulusevski maybe as a right wing back, I think shows where his priorities were in the window, and maybe we couldn't get deals like that over the line. But in the same breath, we hear that Adama Traore was our only right back target. So it's kind of hard to judge exactly what the priorities were there. But I agree, there are holes in our squad where we now have fewer numbers. But the business we got done was very, very good. The business we didn't get done could come back to bite us. But I'd give us a 7 out of 10 for that window. Now, we were going to review the Brighton game and then talk Southampton, but just again, conscious of the time, we might just dive straight into that Southampton game.
We've got 20 minutes. We can do 10 minutes each, can't we?
Okay, if you think David can do that, I'll put trust in you. Look, we've already spoken about the debuts of Kulusevski and Bentancur, but look, David, we'll come to you on this one because I know it's your favourite topic. Harry Kane was absolutely exquisite on Saturday.
And his hair was immaculate.
Look, Sim, when you know, isn't that right, Sim? We sat there, we backed him all the way through the hard times. We were getting pelters left, right, and centre. People saying, "Look, the guy's done. He's finished. He's not hungry anymore. He doesn't love the club." Well, I'm sorry, but if anyone that looked at that first goal he scored and told me that's not the Harry Kane of old, I'm just never going to listen to you ever again. That was a beautiful strike. The way he rolled that boot from the top of the boot all the way through the middle down to the end to get that bend on it into the top corner, the way he cut in, shaped up for it. Even that second goal, he could have stood there, he could have ball watched, but he didn't. He was alert, he was aware, he got in there and, got the slide tackle in and bundled the ball over the line. And for me, I think even against Chelsea in some of the games in the last while, I think his hold-up play has been absolutely exceptional. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. And all I just want to say is, never ever doubt me and Sim again. Big H is back, baby. And look, his haircut has been unbelievable the last few weeks. It's been quality. I mean, there's no better image than on a Sunday seeing Harry Kane float around Tottenham Hotspur Stadium with the wind going through his hair. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. But when it does come to the Brighton game, I actually think, look, a lot of people were sucking off Harry Potter and Brighton there before the game. And I knew we were going to walk out in there and slap them. There's levels to this game. Yes, Brighton have done well under Harry Potter, but they're not at Tottenham's level. Let's be honest. And I'm glad that we went out there and smacked them because I want to get back that feeling that we had under Poch, where you walk into these games, you look down at these teams, you're like, 3 points easy, we beat them. At Spurs over the last while, we're looking, like even last year we've done it with Sheffield United. How can they cause us problems? Well, it doesn't matter because we've got Romero back, so no team will cause us problems anymore. That guy was absolutely immense. I think it's his best performance in a Spurs jersey by far. I think we have to be looking at playing him in the centre now. I think he looks so much more better there. I think on the ball, I think he was absolutely brilliant. Even when he won the ball back, he just comes out, puts the hands down, everybody calm down. And what I loved about it, what we've seen over the last few weeks with Tanganga, Sanchez, or even with Dyer in the team before that and a bit of Ben Davies, we were launching balls up to Harry Kane. Romero putting the balls into Harry Kane's feet. And he can play as well, and we know that. And that calmness then feeds out through the midfield, through to the strikers. With the midfield, it means they feel like they can push on a bit higher, help with the press because they know Romero's back there. But what I love most about Romero is he's proactive about his defending. He's not reactive. You look at our defending the last while. balls have been going into the strikers. We're letting them hold it up. They're getting their team up the field and they're playing in our half. Romero doesn't allow that. He gets in front of you, wins the ball, takes it off you, and he gets us straight away on the counter. I'm very happy with what we've done against Brighton. I'm delighted. Honestly, Harry Potter probably thinks XG is Expelliarmus goals or something. He thinks it's a spell.
Oh, I love it, David. I love it. But look, it's Romero being back was so important for us, and I don't think we've been bad defensively since he's been gone. But that just calmness, even if it's the calmness in the crowd when he is on that football pitch, because that energy transmits onto the pitch, onto the players. He makes everything seem a lot safer. Everyone is a lot more confident. And I feel Davinson Sanchez is actually someone who really benefits from the style of defending in his team now that it is being led by Christian Romero. Sanchez and Dyer, I think both deserve a massive shout for the improvements they've made this season. But just to go back to that Harry Kane goal, when you score a goal, especially one that puts you ahead, and I know Brighton gifted to us, you usually let out a scream, you let out a little yelp. I completely involuntarily just looked at the screen and just whispered, "You are remarkable." It was such a good goal. It was such a good strike from Kane. And David, like you said, it is classic Kane. But same as David touched on there, Romero back in the team. We also had Heung-min Son back in the squad after his injury layoff. How important is it for us? And we saw it in that game to have the two of those back in.
Yeah, vitally important. And it was so good to have them both in the team and actually looking pretty sharp, actually looking like they don't need a lot of time to get back to their best. I think when it comes to Romero, clearly we took our time with him. We didn't rush him back. I think we even saw pictures of him in training like a while ago. And thankfully, we were like, and people were saying, should we rush him back? People were saying, should we put him in for Chelsea? But we didn't rush him back. We took our time. We waited, and now he's come back into the team, and he was brilliant yesterday. He absolutely, so 2 days ago now, I think, isn't it? He was absolutely amazing. I thought when he goes in for a challenge, it's like you're either getting fouled or he's winning the ball, and like 9 out of 10 times he's winning the ball. It's like watching a steam train coming towards you. So you only got one option, and that's getting the fuck out of the way. And that's what it seemed like with Romero. He was absolutely brilliant, and in the tight spaces as well. He's so calm. Really calm. Like a lot of our defenders, especially like it's been very noted with Sanchez a lot of the time when he's being pressured or when when players are closing him down or he has to think quickly, he can panic and he can boot the ball away or his passing becomes imprecise. But Romero is very aware of his surroundings. He's very aware of who's where. He's not scared to play a little short pass to a defender in the tight space or play his way out. And he's pretty progressive with his passing as well. He was quite happy to play the ball into the feet of the attackers. And start attacks as well. It was almost like a trigger for a counter-attack at times. So I thought he was brilliant. It was so good to have him back. When it comes to Heung-min Son, I think obviously it wasn't his best game, but I still think he looked pretty sharp. He was linking up with Kane and Lucas really, really well. A few times he was getting in behind, and especially for the third goal, that burst of pace only a few minutes before he was going off was exceptional, and it really caused havoc in the Brighton defence. And we've missed that little burst of pace to get in behind defences when he's been gone, I feel, apart from a couple of moments from Bergwijn, obviously. I think Son is going to be invaluable. And all of a sudden, looks like we have options there with Lucas and then Kulusevski and now Bergwijn. All of a sudden looks quite healthy. So, yeah, Son is going to be so important. And obviously, as David said, Harry Kane, what a beautiful guy. Absolutely brilliant performance. I thought he was outstanding again. I thought about off the back of that Leicester performance, which I thought was not just his best performance of the season. I think it's one of the best performances of any Premier League player this season. I thought against Leicester, I thought he was exceptional. And yesterday, and against Brighton, again, he's carrying on from that and coming into his own. And Conte has got him playing to that world-class level. And it just goes to show if you've got a structure around him, which contributes to him creating chances and him having runners and having players around him, him getting in the box and allowing him chances to shoot and things like that, we're always going to get that player back. And there you have it.
Absolutely. I think I'm on Romero as well. If we're going to get anywhere near a trophy, anywhere near top four this season, those are going to be two absolutely crucial players for us. And it may work out in a roundabout way in our favour that they've had a bit of a rest for this late run into the season because we didn't lose out on much aside from the EFL Cup while they were gone. But Ben, since our back-to-back semi-final appearances in the FA Cup in 17 and 18, we've been knocked out in the fourth round by Crystal Palace, in the fifth round last season, or 2 seasons ago by Norwich, and in the fifth round last season by Everton. What did you learn on Saturday about the mentality of this Tottenham team and the philosophy and the culture that Antonio Conte has instilled into our squad?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it was complete total domination, especially in that first half. And, we went out there with a point to prove, an absolute point to prove. First game after the transfer window, everyone's pulling in the same direction. Like I said before, everyone's singing on the same hymn sheet. And that is exactly the kind of mentality that Antonio Conte is trying to instill. And it looks like he's winning the battle, to be honest. It really does. In terms of, the FA Cup performances over the last couple of years, yeah, it hasn't been great, but when you're looking at the FA Cup now, I mean, it looks like it could be one of the hardest FA Cups to win in a while, because, you're looking at going into the last 16 and going into the quarterfinals with all the big teams being kept apart. So,
and all the big teams left in it, right?
And well, yeah, all the big teams are left in it, apart from Man United.
Exactly.
But I think that it's going to be a very difficult FA Cup to win this year, or even get to the semi-finals and final stages. But I definitely agree with you in terms of Antonio Conte is instilling this mentality into the team. And if we want to go far in these tournaments, if we want to get into the top four and potentially even finish third this season, that is the first and foremost thing that we need to progress.
Yeah, well, look, as long as we avoid Nottingham Forest, I think in the next couple of rounds, we should be fine. We should be able to have a good cup run there. Just as well, for anyone who may not have seen, we haven't drawn away to...
Don't paint up with the same brush.
I was more talking about Leicester, I'll be honest. Look, for anyone who may not have seen, we have been drawn away to Middlesbrough in the next round of the FA Cup. Let's hope they don't have another giant killing and we get to move into the next round of the competition. But the next fixture for Spurs is at home to Southampton in the Premier League on Wednesday evening. And look, I said at the top of the show, it's a crucial Premier League game. I think every game for us at the moment is a crucial one, as we try and keep ourselves in and try to take control of the fight for the top four, which I think, given with the games in hand that we have and given how poorly the teams around us are playing, is entirely in our hands. But David, we'll start with you on this one. How are you feeling ahead of this game against Southampton?
I mean, it's probably one of the most absurd questions I've ever heard, Matt. You know how I'm feeling, man. I'm absolutely pumped for this game. Look, at Southampton, we should be beating them, to be honest with you. I wasn't impressed with them the last time we played them. Yeah, they got a man sent off, but they just sat in their box. They were boring, didn't really offer anything. To be honest with you, I was half asleep, to be honest with you. I think we walk out there with confidence in our step, and I think we get at them nice and early at home, like we did against Brighton, not let them settle, unnerve them. And yeah, I reckon we could be 2-0 up by half time. I really do. Look, Southampton at home are a different opposition. When they travel, they're not great. I think we will pull them apart, and I think we win this one easy.
I love that confidence. I always say this, right? Whenever David gets really carried away about a game, we were doing a watch along last season. I think I said this on a show recently, David. It was against Chelsea. It was the game we lost 2-0 at home last season. We were on a terrible run. We were about to sack Jose. The fan was in disarray. We players out injured. David was, no, we're going to beat them. This is our time. This is our time to shine. Harry Kane hat trick and all this. 11 seconds into the game, Timo Werner missed a chance, and David goes, "I'm just so deflated, man. It's the same thing over and over." I feel if anything goes even slightly wrong, but I love the confidence, David. And I do have to say I agree with this for now. Sim, we're at full strength. We got players back. We got new signings in. Do you think we've any concerns heading into this one?
Well, look, you can't take Southampton too lightly because they do have a knack of pulling a result out of the bag. They drew to Man City twice this season. We obviously drew to them earlier in the season, and you forget 11 when it was 11 versus 11. Southampton were pretty much the better team, and we were 1-0 down. We got a bit lucky to go 1-1 at half time. And in the second half, we obviously got a bit robbed with a few disallowed goals, and we should have won that game. But Southampton are no mugs. But as long as you set the tone from the start, especially at home, we should be okay. I think they're quite an attacking team. They quite, especially when they have 11 players on the pitch, they definitely like to play on the front foot. They're quite intense, but as long as you watch out for that, you don't give away any silly set pieces around the box with James Ward-Prowse around. He's a massive threat. But we definitely have the much better team. I think with at the moment with Conte, whether it be 3-5-2 or 3-4-3, we have the better structure. I would definitely look to attack them from minute one. I would probably go with a 3-4-3, considering they like to play with a 4-2-2-2. I think if we try and exploit the space they're leaving behind, because they like to play their fullbacks quite high up a lot of the time, with Kyle Walker-Peters being quite attacking. And they are quite an offensive team. So if we can get the opening goal, I think that can set the tone. As long as we're very, very intense from the off. But if we let Southampton impose themselves in the game, they can make it very difficult. And I think they've shown that against some big teams this season. So you've got to be careful. But for sure, you got to think this has to be 3 points.
It does. And I think you're talking about that 3-4-3. I think two players who could. And I hope will slot straight in there. I'm not sure they will. And Kulusevski and Bentancur, of course, are new signings. Ben, do you see them being thrown into the deep end? Or do you think Conte will continue to ease them in and integrate them into that squad?
I got a feeling Bentancur might get a start, but I think Kulusevski might start from the bench again with Lucas Moura being given the nod. In terms of the way I think the game is going to go, I think it's important for us not to get too carried away with what's going on at Tottenham right now. Because let's be honest, I mean, it's been hitting. I mean, look, Conte has had a really good start to life at Tottenham, but I think it's still very important not to get carried away because we've seen it all here before. We got carried away when Jose Mourinho was here. We got carried away, and rightfully so, when Pochettino was here without any trophies to show for it. So I think it's important just keep our feet on the ground a bit, not get too carried away. But this is Southampton at home, and we should be getting 3 points. No matter what kind of Southampton turn up, we should be getting 3 points in this one. Like my brother said, they're a very attacking side, so I think that could play into our hands, and I think we can pick them off. If we start the game like we did the Brighton game and don't let them have a sniff, don't give them a second to rest on the ball, pressure them high up the pitch, win the ball high up the pitch, this could be quite a convincing victory this weekend. I really believe that. And with Bentancur in the middle, hopefully he'll be partnered by Højbjerg. I'm not sure what the story is with Skip because he missed out last game through injury. But I imagine it will be them too, with maybe Winks missing out on this one. I'm confident of a big victory this weekend. I really am. If we take that same mentality. The dizzy heights of beating Southampton at home, you know what I mean? But look, I think that it's hard not to get carried away, to be honest. It really is. I've been bantering all my Arsenal mates this week completely.
They deserve it.
I think half of them blocked me this week, to be honest. But look, I am getting carried away, and I think we can get top four this year, and we will get top four this year. But I'm trying to call for calm in the fan base, but I know it's very hard to keep calm because us, like as Spurs fans, we do like to get carried away, don't we, David?
No, we do. And look, I'll be honest, there's no need for calm at home. We're making this Tottenham Hotspur Stadium an absolute fortress under Conte, and that's going to be at the forefront and the heart of everything we want to do going forward, especially next season, challenging for the title, winning the FA Cup, winning the League Cup, going on a good run in the Champions League, getting top four this season. Our home form is absolutely crucial to that. We want to get it to a point where teams are already defeated getting off the bus. I think we're starting to build it up slowly. And these next two games, Southampton and Wolves, are just going to add to it.
But at the end of the day, there's still a lot of hard work to do. There's a lot of hard work to do. We've still got a lot of holes in the squad. So, I mean, Stelios was saying it right. And I think if we make top four, it's because we work the hardest. And I think that's going to be the case, especially under Conte.
Look, I'm not sure I'm the right guy to stop people getting carried away because I was on here after we beat Ludogorets 4-0 in the Europa League on your guys' fan show, and I said we're going to win the Premier League. So I don't think I'll be the best man to kind of rein us back in. But yeah, I think it should be a comfortable game for us, and even more so than the quality that we have, even just the feeling, the mood, the vibe around the camp at the moment, around the club. I think we need to carry that forward. We need to keep going. We need to carry that momentum into what at the next couple of games could be a couple of easy games, but of course there's a lot of difficult fixtures to go towards the end of the season, and I think we're going to have a good go at the FA Cup, and I think we should. We're going to ground and quick fire, just a scoreline. We're going to get your score predictions for this one. David, we'll go with you first.
3-0, Harry Kane, brace, Son with 1.
I'm impressed. Sim?
I'm also going 3-0. I'm going Son, Lucas and Kane, all three on the score sheet.
Ben?
I'm going to go... I went 2-0 in Predict the Prem. I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to go Harry Kane and Kulusevski off the bench.
Oh,
jeez. Dan.
Yeah, fiber on that.
You should. I'm going to go for a win as well. I'm going to be not pessimistic, but maybe a bit more realistic and say I think Southampton will nick one. But I'm going to go for a 3-1 win for Spurs. We go 2 for Kane. And let's get Christian Romero on the score sheet. He needs his first goal. Let's get him forward for a corner. Let's see what he can do. Everyone make sure to put your your score predictions for that one in the live chat as well. Let's see what people are thinking. But also give us your feedback. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, how much more of us you want to see for our first edition of the Tottenham.
We don't want to know that. We just want to keep giving it to them,
shoving it down their throats. Exactly.
Just make sure to hit that like button as well, so we can fuel our egos. Ben, do you want to close it off since it's on your channel, or do you want me to wrap it up?
Look, Matty, you're the host today, mate. You go for it.
I love it. Subscribe to Matt Hayes Tottenham. No joke. Look, it's been an absolute pleasure coming on here. Everyone, again, I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that, but make sure to smash that subscribe button down below for We Are Tottenham TV. If you want to support me and David, just click on our names in the title as well, and that'll bring you right over to our channels. But hopefully we'll be on here a lot more for the Tottenham Hour podcast. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbours, and let's build up the next Spurs podcast, the biggest that we can get out there. It's been an absolute pleasure, like I said, guys. Thanks a million for the chat tonight. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in. I suppose I'll say the famous line, as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. I love you, big Harry Kane.